if you want to support the show, any of the shows, either this or whichever show, I'm not on right now because it's just a blanket ad for all of them, and the website, you can go to bewareofspoilers.com. In the description for any of the episodes of Beware of Spoilers, there is the option to donate. If you don't want to donate that way, you can donate directly through the website. We do have that, mwpnews.com. And if you don't want to support that way, then going to mwpnews.com will help out because we have ads there. We don't want to keep it, with it a lot of ads. There's a few ads. But the point is we want to make it so that way, we can sustain this for the long term. If people donate, we're never going to paywall anything, I don't think, as of right now. But if people start donating, we'll start doing cooler and cooler stuff. Like donations are how we get to cover stuff like Tribeca and other, film festivals. And, we may be able to bring on more people to help out. So if you want to help out the show and you want more content from us, by all means, even just going and giving us a 5-star rating on Spotify helps out a lot. But that's it. That's the only ad we'll have on the podcast ever. But here's whatever podcast you're going to be listening to. Good morning, or afternoon, evening. Well, by the time it goes up, it'll be evening. And welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam, and welcome to the new YouTube audience, now that we've gotten the YouTube connection back up and running through YouTube podcasts. Today we're here to talk about Robot Dreams, which originally came out last year. I had the opportunity to see this movie last year, because it was playing at the Hamptons International Film Festival. I decided not to. I saw Fancy Dance instead. I don't regret that decision, and I think having seen this movie, I feel like that is more apparent, that I think I made the right decision. This movie was nominated for Best Animated Feature at the Academy Awards last year, but I don't think it got its wide release until much after. I think its wide release date was in May, or even its somewhat limited theatrical release was in May, and now here we are with it getting its day in what's it called now we're in July, and I think that I have mixed feelings about this movie. I really appreciate a lot of the things that they're going with. I think that a lot of the things that they try to do in this movie really work pretty well. I think there are equal amount of things that don't work, and I think I don't remember the other nominees for Best Animated Feature last year. Was Spider-Verse last year? Was Nimona? Was that last year? Was that 2023? I think that was. Yes, we were supposed to have it Beyond the Spider-Verse this year. Across Spider-Verse was last year. But look, I having watched this movie now, I feel like there were opportunities for this movie to have been better. One of the things that I found myself thinking as I was watching it was, like, this definitely should have been a short film. Like, as a feature, you have a lot of ground to cover. As a short, you have a lot of screen time to fill. And I think that that's felt throughout this movie, where it's like, clearly there are scenes that are overly long, designed to kind of, I don't want to say pad out the runtime, because that has a very negative connotation, but there are moments that feel kind of long in the tooth, and I'm like, I don't think this needed to be quite as long as it ended up being. I think that this could have been handled at a shorter runtime and been just as impactful. Considering that, and again, the thing is too, we're talking about a movie that doesn't have a ton of dialogue, or any dialogue really. It is entirely a speechless movie about this dog who feels lonely, so he gets this robot, and he buys the robot, puts the robot together, has a great time with the robot. The robot malfunctions, and then the robot ends up stuck at a what's it called? At a beach as the beach closes, and the dog has to wait for 6 to 8 months to get this robot back. from the beach. And it's about what happens to both the robot as the robot's laying there on the beach, mostly motionless because it can't do anything, and the dog as the dog is trying to, live his life somewhat without this robot that he gave birth to, I guess, for lack of a better word. But I think that there's enough good in this movie where there's enough points where it works that it's like the weird Wizard of Oz sequence. I'm like, all right, I could have, even though it's beautifully animated and I think that it looks great, I don't think that I don't think it's something that needed to be in the final cut of this movie. I can tell you that much. It's just one of those things where as I'm watching it, I'm kind of like, I don't know. I feel like there was definitely room to cut. And the fact that there is room to cut, and the fact that I'm sitting here watching it, and my thought is, this would have been better served as a short film, where it is functionally, these two get together, they find themselves, they find kindred spirits in each other, and then, they grow apart because of what happened, and then they find new lives. This probably, I don't even remember what movie won Best Animated Short last year, which is unfortunate, but I don't remember off the top of my head what did win, but I feel like if this was offered as a short, this would have won, hands down. The issue is it's just too much. And at the end of the day, considering what it is and the entirety of the middle section of this movie is kind of skippable. The whole thing with him going to Stony Brook and meeting the duck, and the dog meeting the duck, and the duck moving back to Europe. It's, all that does is just give additional context for him getting another robot, which, I guess you got to keep in that, but you can truncate that whole thing greatly. And that's just giving him the context for, and no, it doesn't even, because at that point, the reason he gets the other robot is because the guy who's searching on the beach with the metal detector finds him and brings him to the junkyard. So, no, you don't even need that. It's this idea, you can montage him trying to make other friends, but I think that this could have been a 40, it would have been a long short. You would have been 30 to 40 minutes. You would have been at the upper cusp of what you would, in good conscience call a short film. But I think that would have been a much better way to handle this movie entirely, if I'm being completely honest. I feel like that would have been a much stronger way to tell this story without, getting into it. And I don't think that the dreams that the robot has, the titular robot dreams, are quite interesting or deep enough for any of it to make sense. Because, that's the other issue, too. And that's also why I suspected this was a short at one point that got expanded out into feature length. Is the fact that, one of the fears that the robot dreams about is Dog getting another robot and replacing him. And then when you get to the end of the movie, it's, he's accepted it because he's found his own person. I don't think that that's even needed. I don't know. There's a lot in the middle of the movie that I'm kind of I don't think we needed to see any of this. This could have been a short film, and it could have been just as good as a short film. Which is unfortunate. Usually, I want to see things where if you make it longer, I enjoy it more. This should have been a short film, though. That said, so for ranking it, we have two other things I want to talk about before we talk about that. For ranking it, for those of you who are new to this, who are new to listening to this on YouTube, our ranking system is 5 stars. Go rush out and see it in the theater. 4 stars, wait. You should see it in the theater, but wait. 3 stars, wait for it to go to streaming, but pick up a streaming service that you don't have to watch it. 2 stars would be wait for it to go to streaming and then watch it when it comes to a streaming service that is that you already have. So if it comes to Netflix and you already have Netflix, then do that. 1 star is wait for it to go to basic cable. At that point, watch it on TBS or something like that, where you don't have to pay anything extra for it. It's not even worth spending the time. This is a good movie to turn off. If you need ambient noise or something like that, or you don't care what you're watching. And then no stars is, don't even bother with that. If this movie is on TV, actively change the channel and potentially block the channel that's showing it. Movies like Morbius or Madam Web fall into that category. And this will be I'll say this is a 3. I think this is worth watching, and I think it's worth getting if it ends up on Mubi, or if it ends up on Criterion, or if it ends up on a channel like that. I think it's worth getting that to watch. I don't think it's worth keeping on. Like, I don't think it's worth anything more than that, though. I don't think this is worth a theatrical experience. I don't think this is... I did enjoy seeing it in the theater. I think the colors are vibrant. I really love the visual aesthetic of the movie. Not just in the art design, but also the way they kind of nail New York. And it kind of is a character in the movie. I do really appreciate that as well. I just don't think this is a movie that, especially considering how many fucking ads they put before movies, at an hour 45, you're looking at about, like the movie for me started at 2, I got out at 4 o'clock, which, yeah, the 15 minutes of ads and stuff, but still, like, I think this is a solid, wait till it's streaming kind of movie. Like, I don't think you necessarily need to see this today. I don't think you necessarily need to see this tomorrow. I would say you probably don't need to see it next week. I just say this is a good movie where it's like, if you're flipping through, you know, if you see, like, oh, this is coming to Max, I would say, let's add a month of Max and watch Robot Dreams. That's kind of where I am. Or like, oh, it's available to rent on Amazon Prime. That's a good time to watch it. I would not, I wouldn't say put this watch it in a theater. But yeah, I that said, I did like the movie. That's not me saying I didn't like the movie. It's just, what's the best way to watch it, I think, is what the fundamental question of our ranking system is. And I think that this is the best way to watch this movie is probably to watch it on streaming. But we'll wrap up there for today. That's as good a place as any, I think. But we have 2 other things I want to talk about. Number one, and I talked about this the last few times I've done the Academy Award nominated shorts categories, and they show all the, like, oh, and here's the previews before seeing all the Oscar nominated animated shorts, and you're like, oh, cool, so all we have are kids movies. And it's kind of the same thing here. This movie's not rated, and I don't think there's anything in it that's particularly explicit to where it would be inappropriate for a child. I think you could get away with showing this movie to your kids if you have young kids, because probably the worst is, a misinterpretation of the middle finger. And then there's also like a hippo and a thong for comedic effect. But I don't think that there's anything really explicit in this movie that would make this inappropriate for children. That said, I do think that this is a movie that, it's not rated. And I think you have to, as a programmer, acknowledge the audience that's going to see this movie is not the audience that's going to see Despicable Me 3. It's not the audience that's going to see Inside Out 2. It's not the audience that's going to be seeing, That's going to be seeing, there's another big one that I can't think of off the top of my head. But, I think showing, the Wild Robot I get, because the animation fans are going to be there for that. I don't think that they quite understood that. And the thing is, too, I think if you have a kid who's seeing this, they may not click with the fact that there's no dialogue in the movie. It's very visual-based. You have to watch, and you have to be consciously watching to understand what's going on, because it's all in visuals. I think the issue is, showing that there's a movie 200% Wolf that I've never heard of before today, and that was advertised before, and that was kind of weird. But I think there's, they need to have a conversation about what they're putting before these movies. It's like My Penguin Friend, which is a PG, movie about this guy who makes friends with a penguin after he restores him back to health when he gets, when he's injured. And it's like, okay, that's a cute movie. And then there's a movie that's about a kid's a kid's little league team. It's like Bad News Bears, but modern and almost certainly not as good. There's a lot of movies that they showed off here that I'm like, this doesn't feel like you're in the right arena for this. this doesn't feel like the right place for you to be advertising this movie. Like, I don't think that you, like, this is, I don't want to say this is not a kid's movie, but I will say this is not, like, a theatrical viewing of Robot Dreams is not the place to be advertising this, considering that, like, it had kind of an art house run before this, and then, yeah, I mean, I think that's really all I got to say about that. And then number 2, I forgot what I was going to say. There was another thing that I wanted to address with this. I think, actually, no, it was both. It was the whether or not this movie is for kids as an animated movie, and then the advertising before the movie. Yeah, I think that's all I had to say about this. That's an anticlimactic way to end the episode. Check out Robot Dreams on streaming. I believe it should be streaming at some point in the near future. It's a neon movie. Oh, the other thing, I do remember. The other thing was, like, when the movie's starting, this is an international movie. It was made by, it's a Spanish movie. It was made by Spain, and all the opening credits are in Spanish, and as you're watching, there's no real dialogue in any language. It's all kind of like grunts and noises and stuff like that. I think that one of the things that, like, this is just a small thing, not to get political, but, like, I watch a lot of international movies. A lot of international movies have, like, hey, this was done with an endowment from whatever government it was. You know, was done by an endowment of the United Kingdom. This is done by an endowment of the country of Spain. This is done with an endowment by whatever the country is. And it's a shame we don't have that here. And that's where we'll wrap up for today. But until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.